You're watching Newsfeed, the PM edition. The Communication Workers Union says it's making progress in persuading the South African Broadcasting Corporation to hear its demands, which include the halting of retrenchments and the abandonment of the turnaround strategy. For more on this, I'm joined by the union's General Secretary, Aubrey Tshabalala. Following the court's ruling on the fairness of the retrenchment, are you confident, Aubrey, that further engagement will yield results?
Well, as Communication Workers Union, working together with our sister union, BEMA, we're confident that our persuasion and our action will actually drive sense to the executive of SABC management to finally come together with us and reach consensus.
Now, just take us back into what consensus are you hoping to reach, Aubrey?
Well, first and foremost, it's no secret that we remain opposed to retrenchment in total. And we actually see the turnaround strategy as not being effective to achieve this very same objective that they are talking about. I'm talking about saving money for SABC to be self-sustainable, and a number of other issues. We actually see this drive that will deepen the crisis at SABC. More so, if you look into a question of whether the public broadcaster sticks to its public mandate, that's a fundamental question that we need to ask in line with this turnaround strategy. So in our view, we feel that this turnaround strategy is not an inclusive type of a turnaround strategy. The management wants to implement it, but it really gonna make SABC weaker. It's gonna destroy its capacity for in-house content.
But this issue has already been before the courts, and the courts have sided with the SABC.
Well, I think we are very clear from the beginning. You know, the Labour Court, in terms of Section 189, in terms of Section 197, is not helping at all. What Labour Court does is actually one of the judgment made by Judge Prinsloo. She said that the Labour Court is not there to micromanage the process of retrenchment. What they look basically is numbers. You have 60 days of consultation. We have a minimum of 4 meetings in that 60 days. That's it. It does not really speak to actual what happened. There's a lot of unfairness substantially around the issue of the retrenchment itself. That's why we have a right or to embark on a protected strike. If you look at the substance of the issues that around the retrenchment, one of those is that it's failure to disclose of information. Two, it's the weaker SABC in terms of the turnaround strategy and engagement of workers and the trade union movement. So all of those things will lead to an unfair process whereby even when the SAP has announced to say that it has completed its process to retrench people, it's still going on, issuing out letters, phoning some workers to say, by the way, you have left by a mistake, you'll be retrenched as well. So that shows you that in terms of substantive engagement, there's a lot of unfairness in it.
Now, you talked about the strike that some of the employees embarked on. How successful was this, and what do you think you achieved?
Well, there's a number of things that we have achieved. One, firstly, after we went to the union building, we received almost immediately a response from the presidency informing us that the president will actually engage the delegated minister so that it can come back to us with the broader information to us. That's the first part. The second part is immediately there was an urgent meeting called between the two ministers, which is the Minister of Employment and Labour, Mr. Tula Singesi, as well as the Minister of Communication and Digital Technologies, Ms. Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, together with the board, where we actually went back and really engaged robustly on a number of issues, and there were continuous engagement. We also had a separate meeting that took place yesterday, and all of this is trying to really reach the consensus. If it wasn't workers, if it wasn't us persuading, that would have not been here. Bearing in mind that, by the way, the plan of SABC was that end of December 2020, workers, that 400 would have been gone. We are talking about 303 now. It's still here, but we are engaging on how best can we save those jobs, particularly in the space now where we talk about the the COVID-19 and its economical challenges that it have on the country.
Now, you had a meeting scheduled with the communications minister, correct?
Pardon, I couldn't get that.
Said you had a meeting scheduled with the communications minister.
Absolutely, yes. We had it on Friday. We also had it yesterday. We are still going to have another session together with the board. So that on its own shows you that the engagement are at that stage where parties are trying to find each other. And our view is that there's a need for a turnaround strategy at SABC. But that turnaround strategy must have some guarantees of how we make SABC self-sustainable, how we make sure that it sticks to its public broadcasters mandate. At that point, how do you build the capacity of SABC? And you must make sure that at least when you come up with this turnaround strategy, not a year later on, you'll be asking for a bailout and the workers will be retrenched. We want to make sure that at least all the jobs are saved, if not creating more jobs. But of course, there should be other alternatives that will be looked into if we engage extensively on the substance of the matter.
So in your meetings that have occurred in the last couple of days, has the board of SABC been somewhat receptive?
Well, the board, in our view, it remained stubborn at first. But that's where we are. We are there to persuade each other. The very important part that we must engage on is not the number of days, it's not the number of meetings that it always brag about and boast about. It's actually the substance of the matter. And when we get there, we are very confident. That's why we are making progress. We are very confident that we'll be able to persuade SABC management to see what we are seeing. Because I can make an example now. If we did not fight in November to have an extension of 30 days, SABC would have been still be convinced by now that 400 workers should go. But it now says 303 because we have made some very serious inputs, but we don't think that they've looked into our approach comprehensively. We think that they've just taken some few things and implemented there. So when we persuade each other, we'll get to that particular point.
Aubrey, it's always good to speak to you. That was the Communication Workers Union General Secretary, Aubrey Tshabalala.